very, very happy to introduce Sen Kankanamge to you, who is an amazing healer and osteopath. As I mentioned in the newsletter, I have personally recommended Sam to many people who have found him to be a lifesaver. But I want to tell you a little story about myself and Sam too, because Sam taught me a lot that I wasn't aware of. So back when I was 18, I had quite a major car crash. And many, many years later, several decades later, I went to visit Sam because I had some neck issues, and he didn't know I'd had a car crash. He didn't ask, and I didn't tell. Oh, he did ask, but I didn't tell him actually because I thought it was so long ago, it didn't make a difference. And he said to me, "You've had a major trauma," and I was amazed that so many years later he could pick that up. And I said, "Well, how do you know that?" Because I didn't have any structural damage. And he said, "Your body has held the trauma of that accident, and that's what's affecting you." So he gave me a very subtle treatment that I hadn't had anything like that before. And I went home, and the next morning I woke up the first time without any neck pain. So I was like sold. I was like, "Oh God, this guy's amazing." So Sam, there's my little personal story. Where are you? Hi. Sam? Hello.
I'm coming.
Oh,
Yeah, good morning. Good
morning.
morning. And yes, thank you for that story. And first of all, it's really nice to be here, and thanks for the kind invitation. And it's nice to see you glowing. I wish I was there as well. And yeah, so
Thank you.
I'm delighted to be here and sitting in this your last session of the year. I hope it make it a positive contributions and some great healing energies, offer some healing energies.
Yeah.
And I also want to welcome your lovely people, each and every one of everyone's, and it seems like a very dedicated bunch of people really wants to work on their health and well-being in these challenging times. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the session, and hopefully I can sort of crack on. Yes.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you. Yeah, they are a very amazing community. These people show up every week to help themselves and empower themselves. So huge kudos to you all, because there's so much you can do with your time. And so thank you for being here, and thank you too, Sam. So I think we'll kick it off. Yeah. And I'll ask you some questions. As normal, everybody, you can ask your questions in the chat, and I'll put them to Sam. And then we'll go through all of that. And Sam's going to actually close us out at the end with a nice 5-minute meditation, so you can all float into your days beautifully. Okay, Sam. So let's start, because I don't think everybody knows what osteopathy actually is, and what it is, and who it's good for. Because osteopathy, it is. I remember you telling me you had to train. It's like medical training, right? And then you did your. I think when you first finished your studies, you were working in a hospital with babies, right?
Yeah. So yeah, you do the postgraduate training for the sort of skills and experience for sure. Yeah, then you have the opportunity to explore. Correct. Yes.
So tell us, what is osteopathy?
Well, up to 25 years, I'm still wondering, but I'll do my best. And I think osteopathy is a modality of treatment that is kind of mixed with the science as well as the art of healings. So it's a kind of right balance. Depending on what osteopath want to plot to the science side or the healing side. But fundamentally, I will just tell you a little bit about how it works. And when a patient presented to us and listening to their medical stories and the presenting symptoms, we obviously bring the lens of science to really look at the patients and analyze through the human anatomy and the physiology and the pathology, biomechanics and human mechanics, to really to make the sense and put everything into kind of context and make a diagnosis. And most importantly, and if patient is safe to treat, whether we need to refer to somebody else. So that's the first protocol that we have to do it. And that's usually used a lot of science. When you actually, what matters is that when we come to treat patients on the treatment beds, so, I think most of your friends knows that osteopathy is more manipulative, physical type of treatment. We use the hands-on techniques and different various techniques, from subtle techniques to more manipulative techniques, sort of make things align and put things into place. And so where the symptoms are, we're trying to correct the structure and alignment of the body. That's fundamentally what osteopathy do. But we also, what is most important, that when you touch somebody and there is a deep healing forces in play and an innate healing mechanism of the body. So this skilled osteopath really wanted to sort of tune into that and bring it into the treatment and maximize and enhance the power of the treatments. That's the beauty of osteopaths, to be able to bring this healing forces and healing mechanics into the treatment program, so that we can really make a quite comprehensive treatment, more holistic aspect of treatment, and also most importantly, get the patient back to the normal and feel better and free of pain very quickly. So that that said, but we also have there are two type of osteopath that is out there working. One is the more traditional model, is more sort of using more mechanical osteopathic techniques, purely physical techniques to treat patients. That's purely on the musculoskeletal level. And putting, if you have a back pain, neck pain, any joint muscular pain, so you will use the more mechanical type of treatments to work. And then you have other cranial osteopathy, which is other name is biodynamic osteopathy, which is much more holistic, very subtle, and it's more about it's a different concept to the traditional osteopathy. It's more using the subtle forces within the body. When like the way I felt your neck, and you can go much, rather than just see the what causing the symptoms, and you can go beyond that, what traumas they are underlining this led you to cause the neck pain later life. So you can pick up this with the subtle sensitivity and a trained hands and information that you pick up from it, because the hand, this hand's like a bank of informations. It's not in your head, this is in here. So when you treat over the course of 100 people, then you pick up what is normal, what is right, and what are the traumas. So biodynamic osteopathy or cranial osteopathy more about unblocking and releasing underlying stress pattern with the musculoskeletal level to the internal organ system, nervous system, and also emotional level and energetic level. So it gives you tool to approach in a different angle. But as an osteopath is to bring all this together and make a more comprehensive holistic treatment program. So yeah, that's right. Is that?
Yeah, that's a really good explanation. Thank you. And I mean, you do more the biodynamic osteopathy, right? And because your treatment is very holistic. And like I said in the newsletter I sent out, I've sent people to you who had headache, like real migraine issues. They tried everything. They tried, medical route. They've tried everything and they couldn't get rid of it. To people who had extreme anxiety, and somehow you managed to do that. I find it very fascinating that the body holds on to trauma. And maybe can you just explain that to us a bit more? Because for me, it was like an aha moment when you meant, you said to me this, your body has held on to this.
Yeah.
So maybe just talk to us, like what kind of, is it just always physical? Could it be mental? Could it be emotional? What does the body do to hold on to that trauma, and how does that affect us?
I mean, the good example is like, when you have a physical trauma, like you had an accident, it's the same way like when you have a car accident, so, there's a dent in the frame. So sometimes you may notice, you may not notice, but it is there, and it is play with your mechanics and the flow of the body. So that's just the like physical example. But this is also when you have a stress pattern, more traumatic experience, whether with the physical aspect, or it could be emotional. You had emotional trauma. Unfortunately, some people do suffer emotional trauma. It could be I don't know, bereavement to some sort of attack, and emotional attacks. So there are various that, so I find that emotional trauma is much more subtle than the physical trauma, because sometimes if you have a physical trauma, it's a little bit palpable, but emotional trauma, you have to go a little bit more beyond to really feel it. So, emotional trauma manifests in the form of anxiety, stress pattern. Sometimes, obviously it can manifest on a physical level when you have emotional trauma, when you're stressed, which is, mainly affecting your immune system, setting up inflammatory reactions. So how do you feel the emotional trauma? Like I give it just example how you feel the physical trauma, because you can just sometimes tune into your musculoskeletal system where the impact is, and you can kind of palpate that in a sense that is not normal. There's some tension and stress pattern. When you come to the emotional trauma, I'm also fascinated, all these years, each patient and everyone that you see has a different, unique presentation that. But usually emotional trauma held in your left side. Left side is your feminine side, and your emotional side, it's your heart center. If somebody shouted at you and screamed at you, where it goes to your heart, and that's a very superficial level. If you have something really deep, this memory, even in the childhood, and if you have some sort of impact, a stress pattern, so this it's there's a memory bank of this the heart center, heart energies, and that also is stored. That what happens is that you also have a connection between the heart to the brain. So there's a deep communication take place from your heart to the brain, because embryologically your heart actually it's centered in your brain area, then slowly descend to your physical body. So there's a huge this innate connection that when you have some sort of emotional trauma, that also affect your brain activity and brain function, and vice versa. So when you really tune in with your very sensitive hand, you can feel some sort of stress pattern, blockage pattern in your heart centers. So you can also work and connect with that. Beauty is that as osteopath, you want to find out the source and what kind of experience they had, maybe recalling the childhood experience and allowing to patient to express that and acknowledge that. While you do that, you work on a touch and healing, sensitivity to these areas. Then there's a shift, change can happen. Sometimes, change happen, but also you need to consistently do it to make sure that that change lasts longer, accommodate into the body. And then you also have energetic traumas, so that could happen on a, like if you go to a very negative energy environment, a very dark energy, you feel like you pick up some sort of negative energies, and you can feel in your body. So, and when you treat the patient, you can feel that their aura and energetic fields, and then you can feel some sort of energetic field is being damaged and all not functioning. So there are techniques that you can correct that and work with it. But osteopathy is to work on every angle. You work with the physical, you work with the heart, you work with the energy. So you kind of interchange and, working, how it allows the body to accommodate.
Right. No, that's really good explanation. Thank you. It really is. So, and that's what separates it from like a physiotherapy, which is very much functional to that part of the body that you're having issues with, right? That's the difference. So osteopathy is much more holistic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's one more thing, because traditionally what physiotherapy and osteopath are different. When you have osteopathic training, a model is that osteopaths are trained to independently diagnose and make a treatment protocols. So that means, if you come to me, I will make a diagnosis and then I will treat. Physiotherapy, traditionally what happens is that there are private physios that work independently, but generally what happens is that the doctor make a diagnosis, and then physiotherapy will draw up the treatment according to the diagnosis of the physiotherapist. But the traditionally osteopaths are fundamentally independent healthcare practitioners. And
right. Yeah, no, I get that. And in your treatment, you also integrate acupuncture, don't you?
Yeah,
you're an acupuncturist too.
Yeah, so my before becoming osteopath, I trained as acupuncturist in Sri Lanka and brief training in China. So I deeply appreciate, before going into the osteopathy, more healing aspect or more Eastern philosophies of 1,000 years ago, how the medicine been practices. And so I had that deep sense of that, because I want, when I also want to highlight that one of the things, key area is that, if you look at the more general medicine, so Western medicine is more about, it's fixed on a broken system, if I use the word, because it treats the disease, the state of disease. If you have a symptom, they will give you medicines to reduce the symptom, but not necessarily fix the state of disease. So, if you go back to the Ayurvedic concept, or traditional Chinese medicinal philosophies, or the osteopathy, they look at the health within the system. As osteopath, what you look at is the health within the system. So it's based on the treating the health, and whereas that's a very contrasting view. So I always appreciated that when I was coming into the osteopathy. But I had a very traditional osteopathic training with the British School of Osteopathy. They are more mechanically oriented osteopathic school, where science is the major. Everything is based on that. So they don't really go into more deep healing side. So that's why I went to start working with the children, and pediatric osteopathy, and a biodynamic approach, so that I can really get my head down to the sort of more healing side of the osteopathy.
Yeah, I remember you telling me once about when you worked in the hospital with premature babies.
Yeah.
Again, I found that such a fascinating perspective, because you said you would hold those babies and know from very early on if they were going to make it, and help them. I mean, I don't know if it's probably very difficult for you to describe that into words, but if you can give us, how would you know that?
Yeah, I think, I was a very young osteopath. This is like 22 years ago. And first of all, I had an opportunity to work with the Children Osteopathic Center, which was actually, I want to acknowledge, it was funded by the Princess Diana's Trust that time, because after her sadly passing away, there was money dedicated to the children. Part of that was the Children Osteopathic Center. Part of that money went to helping premature birth unit, and I had an opportunity to work voluntarily in 97, 98, 99. So part of that is that time the neonatal medicine hasn't developed. Like today, if a child born 25 week, 27 week, they're going to make it, the very advanced neonatal medicine. So to now going dialing back to 20 years back, these children are they're like a size of hands, because they're only 25 weeks, 27 weeks. So you can't really put two hands to treat them. You actually need to work with the two fingers, or a couple of fingers, to really to feel their body, because they are not fully formed. They are still very fluid type body, because everything is infusing and and making a form to the physical body. And so everything being done to them, the lung is underdeveloped, their nervous system underdeveloped. One of the key areas is that their arteries of the nervous system in the brain is very premature, not formed. So there's always the bleed and trauma. That's why later life they're going to have some sort of brain damage, physical disabilities. And that's the major problems of the premature born children. So I was a very young osteopath. I had an incredible opportunity to work with some of the very pioneers of the cranial osteopathy and pediatric osteopathy. So I was working, and I was very naive, and you just go and work with this experienced osteopath, and you just put two fingers. You could see all the machine changing, because everything is done through the machine. So you can see the oxygen level changing, the blood pressure changing. And so when you go next week, your medication changing. So sadly, your mothers is helplessly sitting on the table and waiting this child. And it was incredibly emotional things as well. So you go there, and obviously you get used to it. 1 week you go and treat a child, next week this child is no longer there. You have to accept that. And because some children sadly don't make it, today they will make it. So over the period of time, and you can feel the will of survival, will to live, this free will, you can feel in their mechanism, and you can really be palpable. So I make a mental note, I hope everyone will stay when I come back next week, but also you have to accept emotionally, you don't see all the child. you could, I kind of got a sense, subtle level, which child will stay, which child will sadly go. And it was really interesting experience. That was the game changer for me. And I saw the healing forces, innate healing abilities that is in a big play on these children. So up to date, I'm still working with the children, and I also have a small charity that I work every Friday afternoon, because these type of children need a continual treatments, not just one treatment or two treatments. So therefore I accept that, in order to continue that, and the finance should not come into it, and they should have an opportunity to continue. So up to date, still have a Friday afternoon donation basis clinic, but also the beautifully, some of the children that I got to know, I later treat private practice when they grow release from that. So I have a kid, 23 years old, and he's actually do a little bit work on my website, which is incredible story. Yes.
Wow, that's a
And he's in a
lovely
wheelchair.
story. I
Yeah.
love that. But
Yeah.
it's so, I think it demonstrates the kind of person you are, that you started off with babies, and you then have continued to help children through your own foundation over the years. So it is, and then feeling that, as you say, the will of the child, and the fact that the body, if the will is there, that the body can heal itself.
Yeah.
So moving on now, who comes to see you? Who's been coming to see you over the last year? What are the issues that people are having? Because I want to talk about that, and then we can talk about, if people can't come and see you, what can they do at home to help themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, my practice is more general practice, and over the years, as osteopath, the beauty is that, like as a human, you have to evolve. My practice always evolve. At the beginning, I was just treating purely a mechanical lenses and just treating the back problem, sort of mechanical problems, because I also want to understand osteopathy. So over the years, I have shifted. I treat mainly the more general conditions. I obviously treat the physical presentations, but also I would say 60 to 70% of patients are actually come for some sort of internal health concerns. A lot of headaches, migraine. Start with the digestive issues, to even to post cancer recovery, which is a big thing, which holistic medicine help, and fertility issues, and other menstrual issues that I treat, and there are quite a huge aspect of emotional issues that I've over the years developed, and working with the patient to help them with emotional traumas, and I think there are 30% of patients, they appreciate that they have to invest on their health. So part of that is that they don't have a particular concern, but they want, they are high flyers, they don't have a time to be ill, and that's why people go for a retreat as well, because they want to invest the time and for that, so that they can stay and have a continual optimum life. So I have a category of these type of patient where I work with the health, because when you work with the health and you are treating the health, that's the joy of that. And also then you pick up things that might be sort of brewing under, it could be a little joint problem. So it could be internal issues, it could be, there are cases if not clear, when you're doing a little blood test and checking, everything is okay. And especially with the COVID times, and a lot of patients are interested on treating their immune system, staying on health. And actually the clinic's been very busy, because we are trusted players and patient trusted us. So even lockdown, it's a pleasure they come to see us. And recently, some of the people, I think we need your friends, I want to talk about them, because everyone working from home. So there's certain postural issues, bad posture, sitting on a desk to the working from the bed to the sofa, everything else. So I wanted to really touch and give maybe a little bit advice at home. And going back to last, those who cannot come to see osteopath or healthcare, somebody like us, there are a lot of self-care techniques that you can do. I think as for the working at a home, it's really important that you create some boundaries, because and that's a little bit of a, because if you go to the office and a home, so you're going to the office for a work, so your kind of mind is set, okay, these are the hours I'm going to work, I'm going to really set up, then and go home and relax. And so you have your home routine and you have work routine at your office. This is completely messed up. So people don't have a boundaries. They will have a lunch, make a lunch, they go back to the computer, it will be in the kitchen, it will be in a lounging area. I think it's very important. I would suggest to have a boundary so that you can have a little bit of a detached time, and not to worry about what's happening in the computer, and you can really detach from things. That's one of the things that I think having boundaries is very important. And the second thing is obviously, and really taking care of your posture while at home, whether it's setting up a really good working station, best possible way. I know everyone knows possible, but really having a good chair position, and then the computer is set up right positions, and your hands and everything else. I don't always suggest people to work sometimes standing. It's also good posture, not sit too long. It's very static, and the movements are very good. And also, obviously, I would recommend always to do a little bit yoga practices, opening the body, and keeping subtle. The walk in the nature is very important, mind and emotional level. And always having a little bit of morning meditation practice. So those are the self-care. And I also recently seen that people, do a lot of Zooms, exercise class and yoga class, but I will tune into somebody personally, because one thing you could do, have some sort of physical stresses, cause problems, and just doing a Zoom class, perhaps not really, you are not aligned with what that person is offering. Yeah, does that cover what you
Yeah,
are?
no, that's good. That's good. I think that's a really good point about the Zoom classes. There's a lot of online content out there right now, so I would also endorse that. You have to be really careful who you follow and what you do. It may, not that they're bad teachers, but it may not be right for you. So just tune into that, around that. But can I just come back to the posture of
Yeah,
sitting at the desk, and
yeah.
then also stand. What do you think about those standing desks?
I think it's brilliant, brilliant. I have recommended to certain type of. It's not for everyone. If you have some sort of like a back problems, especially lower back area. If you're sitting, the worst thing you could do is to compress your, your pelvic area, especially for women's. There are more pelvic organ than the men's. So, and standing posture, standing desk is good. There are different type of chair that you can work with it on a standing desk. So I think again, it's a very personal thing, and but as a general rule, and if you have an option to work from a standing desk, I will endorse that. Yes.
Okay, as a general rule, excuse me. And then when you're sitting at your desk, just to be aware of, because I know it's very easy. I know that myself. Very
Yeah.
easy to grab
Yeah.
your computer in bed, do something in bed, or to just sit on the couch, slouch on the couch with your computer and work a little bit there.
Yeah.
So that's really not good for the back, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And yeah, exactly. Yes.
And how about the phone? The constant
Yes.
the
Yes.
constant holding of the phone and the texting and
Yeah, I think I will
the
always do that. Yeah, even I make a small call, I do hands free. Sometimes put the because the recent phones are very good, so I'll just do hand free and I'll put the voice on it, and I'll just talk. So you don't really, and also it's good. You are not very close to the phone as well. So any possibility, if you're if you're on a phone for a while, I will do hand free. Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Yeah. So the people who've come to see you over the last 6 months or so, you mentioned to me a lot of them have come with stress and anxiety issues, but also we'll come to that, but also long COVID.
Yeah, I wanted to elaborate on that.
Yeah,
Yes.
so let's talk about the long COVID
Yeah.
and what that
Thank,
is.
yeah. Thank you asking this. This is like obviously a hot topic. There's a lot of written information as well as there. So last, because I'm a trusted practitioner and I work with the word of mouth, and those people who are out there, existing patient as well as the new patient or recommended recommendation, I've been seeing quite a number of long COVID patients, and it is actually a really very big concern, and because obvious reason, government and healthcare authorities mainly focusing on the acute symptoms and addressing the vaccinations, but there's a huge amount of people who are suffering with the long COVID symptoms. People who are in this room, I'm sure one or two people who may have had this type of symptoms. So, and so it was, I started seeing few and then more and more. I kind of sort of, I used to treat chronic fatigue syndrome in the past. People, that's one of the conditions, because chronic fatigue syndrome is a kind of more systematic illness, fundamentally failure of the immune system due to the virus or a bacteria or any other parasite. So the first thing you notice is that the presenting symptoms are very similar to the chronic fatigue syndrome. The common symptoms are obviously, actually, mainly the exhaustion and the tiredness. This is exhaustion through physical body, to emotional and mental, cloudiness in the head, cannot be on a Zoom call for an hour, just like completely you have to go and lie down. And also migraine and headaches, for the women, there are menstrual issues, and digestive issues. There are various spectrum of symptoms, but the most fundamental symptoms are this exhaustion, tiredness. So I've been looking at it, obvious, with there's no specific treatment protocols available, and because especially I'm actually because of this, I gather a lot of information. I'm writing a piece that I hoping to publish, and more mainstream, because I think because there are information out there that is more Western point of view, because there's no specific treatment available, and so there's a lot of people are suffering silently. Somebody who knows us could come, but not majority of people are open to that. So doctors, you cannot see a doctor today because you have to do a Zoom call, but fundamentally this type of people need to have a physical treatment, support them and talk to them, look into the eyes, and that's where the healing takes place. And so as for the long COVID symptoms, physical tiredness, these fundamental basic symptoms, just it could be present as a back pain or neck pain. So osteopathy is I was working with osteopathic treatment. Acupuncture is really good for the immune system and really stimulating the energy flows. And sometimes it could be a really congested head with a lot of sinuses. So just draining that and improving the flow of the releasing all the tension and blockage patterns. And also most importantly, like talking to them and really restoring their confidence that they can get better, and sharing this information, really huge shift suddenly, and you can see they're brighten up. Okay, I can get better with this. And so yeah, it's very, it can be a mild, it could be quite severe long COVID spectrum. So I've been treating various types of symptoms and getting good results. It's sometimes slow, if it's like very simple symptoms, it will be take a couple of sessions. But the way I see it, that working with osteopathy, biodynamic osteopathy, acupuncture, really treating holistically to the patients, not just a physical level, looking at the emotional and a mental aspect as well. And also sometimes bringing some nutrition into it. And there are a couple of Ayurvedic herbs that I have in practice from the century there. So I just sometimes prescribe them to support the immune system and general energy. So I always be creative. I want to work with every patient. So it's not one treatment. That's where this kind of treatment comes in.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. I think the message here is, if you have had COVID and you've got long COVID symptoms, don't ignore it. Don't just like pop the ibuprofen and the Panadol to make you feel better or get rid of your headaches. Go deal with it, because obviously the focus, as you say, of the health system right now is the acute symptoms of people who have whose lives are threatened, and they have to deal with that. But the debilitating symptoms of long COVID is huge. So don't deal with that. And in fact, Jane has just put a comment in here, which is good, about if you have had a physical illness that kills, then in my view, the body and mind go into focus on fighting the illness type status. But when the immediate danger is over, then the mind must think, blank, I could have died. So I think it's important to treat the mind as well as the body. Yes, that is so true, Jane. And this is the whole idea of the holistic approach that Sam offers. But I think, if people can't get to you in central London or wherever, just maybe go and see an acupuncturist or another cranial osteopath,
yeah.
To help yourselves. Another question came in here before directly to me, which I want to address now. Are there any steps we can take ourselves to release trauma and tension build up, or would that require a physical in-person session always?
Yes and no. Some cases, you could work on yourself. It's developing the sort of sense and deep sensitivity to your body. And sometimes, when you really do a little bit of meditation, visualizations, and, just lying on the floor, very quiet place, and really tuning into our body. And then you can really feel it where the stress pattern, blockages, and held. So sometimes just acknowledging it, and also the most important thing is that sourcing it. What is the source? If you have a memory bank, okay, what are the emotional experience that I had some sort of impact to my well-being? So it could be childhood, it could be later life, it could be a breakup or something like that that really had to change your prospective way of being. So you could do some work by yourself for sure, and TCM, that the emotional freedom techniques, that kind of techniques also very good, and also the qigong practice is good. When you do qigong practices, you kind of really tuning into your body and also the flow of the energy. So that's also a good practice to do. And any things that really help you to go inward and really connect to your body and the mind and spirits. Any self-care techniques would help you to get to some level. But if there's something held and something there, and sometimes you need somebody to come and work and take through this journey. It could be one session, it could be 2 sessions. I also wanted to sort of touch that, a lot of people have a therapist, but it's a very intellectualizing process. Sometimes you can go on this cycle, but not to get to this kind of emotional traumas that actually creating this thought pattern. So that's also one I want to sort of highlight it. Yes.
Yeah, that's a really valid point. Yeah, that we intellectualize everything. So we think it over and we try and rationalize it all, but it could be trauma just sitting in our body that needs to be released, right?
Yeah.
And we always try to, I guess it's Western life and how we're schooled and brought up. So I want to move over now to your great work that you started with the sanctuary, in your Sen Wellness Sanctuary in Sri Lanka. And some of you here may have actually visited the sanctuary and have booked with us to go there. I've been there a couple of times. It's one of my favorite spots. It is a beautiful small retreat in literally the middle of nowhere in Sri Lanka, on just by the most expansive, fantastic beach. And but why I started working with Sam on it was his vision of why he started it and what he wanted to do with it. So can you just talk to us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, I want to go back to the beginning when you asked, and I've been treating patients here, 45 minutes, 1 hour sessions. After 2 weeks, after 3 weeks, they will come back, some sort of issues, maybe a year, and different presentation, but the source still remain that, it's very challenging for me to work with somebody here 1 hour to make a deep impact. But I also think life is too short. We need to get on. We have a small time in this planet. There are so many things that we want to do, and which the COVID had highlighted. So I always want to get patient. I don't hang on to patient. I want to really empower them, understand where they had become and how to make the changes and offer the solutions. So that's, I had a great friend who was incredibly successful musician, so I had a privilege to go there and visit them. So he had this musical gym, incredible place with all the instruments and amazing place and creativity at play. So I thought I want to set up the same thing in a health and well-being, have a beautiful place. Nature is the biggest healer. I want the nature to come into play, and because that's the biggest asset that we can have it, and then you create the place that is very nurturing and a safe place for healing. So, and you go around and, I mean, eventually end up in a village that is very close to my home, childhood, and that was the place. And I really felt the connection. So it's been a journey, and, the sanctuary was really set up with the intentions. I never thought about the hospitality industry, commercial aspect. I just want to create the best possible way, a safe healing place, nurturing place with the right program. So we want to understand the patient very directly, and we want to talk to them before they come, because today the type of people that we work, they have the money but they don't have the time. And for me it was very important, especially in the clientele that I work, they have the money, they don't have the time. So I want to maximize their when they come to that, I want to maximize the healing abilities and not just have a nice treatments or nice food, nice beach, but something lasting. When they come back, my idea is to, when they return home, there's some sort of conscious changes that kind of restored and resonate into the whole being and having a positive impact, so they can sort of continue that journey. So that's really the intention of the sanctuary. We are very amateurs when you set up. You came first time, you came a few years later. It has been an incredible journey, and obviously we are still going through, and that really has brought a lot of growth. Sometimes it's not linear, sometimes it's up and down. Yeah, I'm grateful, and working people like yourself, incredible opportunities, and inviting guests from all over the world, and which we learn every day. So yeah, it's really been a journey, but it's really been a good journey. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Sam, I've been lucky enough to visit some of the world's most famous and best retreats, but your place, it's all about the intention. I always find it's the places that have healing at their innermost intention that are the best. And yeah, you may find everything sort of super slick, but that it really isn't what it's about. I find, I found your retreat an incredibly healing place because the people who work there embody your vision, and we've all kind of heard you now for about an hour, so I think people have a view of what your vision is. It's called Sen Wellness Sanctuary, the retreat, and we feature it on our website. It was a link on the newsletter that went out, so you can find it there. And I believe it's opening up again in around March. We're looking forward to the days that we can send people back there. But it has the whole background of it. You have an Ayurvedic doctor there, who I found quite interesting. He has a lovely Ayurvedic doctor there who looks like a Bollywood movie star. She's so beautiful. She walks in with her beautiful saris every day, and she would just actually lift me just to look at her. I felt joyous looking at her. But I remember having a chat. I forgot what's her name again.
Shamilka.
Dr. Shamilka, that's right. And I remember having a chat with her, and she said to me, Stella, she said, I think the issue is that everybody from your country just thinks too much. And I found that really, I found that a really profound statement, because I went, God, you're so true. It's so right. We overthink everything. And she said, if people could just feel a bit more and like kind of connect with their heart a bit more. And it's just, you know, so much wisdom there from the doctor herself. So she's not just treating kind of physical ailments or anything like that. She's just seeing the whole aspect. And then the idea of, I like what the Sri Lankan people are like with regards to their philosophy around Buddhism, because it's a Buddhist country, but you take that middle path, right? The Buddhism, the middle pathway of Buddhism is the major way in Sri Lanka. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Sri Lankans are, I mean, you know, we are Buddhist country, and also we are a little island as well. So we kind of have this island, you know, easygoing, you know, island kind of attitudes, you know, and also because of the islanders, you know, you always, I want to give you a little example, you know, very quickly, and that just goes to the attitude, you know, like Sri Lanka sadly had a tsunami 15 years ago, something, you know, and there was a team of you know, social scientists came from America, where they had studied this Katrina. There was a storm in a long time ago. What happened? There was a lot of emotional trauma. This social group of people. Then they went to Sri Lanka thinking this natural disaster would cause so much trauma, this kind of group of people. But they found the complete opposite, and they kind of had moved on after 6 months. They just wanted to get on with the life and see the life in a different angle. They wanted the sort of facilities, and that can help to move on. So Sri Lanka always think about the positive side. You know, we had the wars and everything else. We quickly move on. We don't help to the traumas, because, like you said, Shamilka said, that's, you know, she her wisdom come from naturally. She said, you know, we don't think too much. We just go with the flow. Is that?
Yeah, no, it's perfect. And I think it embodies the wellness sanctuary, that whole thing, where you can actually go with the flow, get in touch with your body, heal in a very quiet place and with full of nature. It's just, it's stunning. So, and I know you're working on some workshops as well that you can, that can be delivered there. I mean, Sam goes there, I think once a few times a year, 3-4 times a year, right? And you do your retreats there, but there are some, anyway, there's some new developments happening at Sen Wellness as well that we'll let you know about as they emerge next year.
Yeah, can I also touch something, because I've been reflecting last, you know, which we can hopefully talk to as well. You know, the coronavirus has actually didn't cover that, you know, the most deep what's happening is the climate change, and that's a big story. You know, coronavirus is overshadowing that. So I think all the small business, the big business should take some action. So we have pledges that that we will be very sustainable businesses, and also the guests coming there, we will have sustainable policies to, you know, even planting mango trees, you know. So we have undertaken a huge sustainable responsibility and pledges. So that's, I think, very important. I think post coronavirus, you guys, the climate change and the sustainable aspect will come into play. So we're taking pro action for that as well.
Very good, very good. Okay, before we close with our meditation, James asked a question. I just want to actually acknowledge Benig. We're so pleased you made it as a baby, a premature baby who had a will, and it was a 50-50, and she made it. She was strong to survive. So
amazing. That's a nice story.
You're with us now, and yeah, Jane has just asked, is there any simple exercises we can do at home, especially for our backs and necks?
Yeah, I always like the triangle pose. You know, it's really a nice way to stretch the whole back, not to stress. You know, I forget the name for the yogic position. It's just going into a triangle pose. That's a really good exercise. And also lying on the back and bringing the knee up, curling knee up, rocking side to side. Just nice way to release the some of the tension in the back muscles. And third thing is, you can always get a hard tennis ball, you know, like 2 tennis ball hard, and you can lie on it and put the tennis ball back of the base of the cranium. That's so what happens is that pressure and tension will allow sometimes to release this some of the spinal tension. So these are like a very safe 3 techniques I could recommend.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Sam. Thank you. Okay, so I think we'll close the session with actually, before we close the session, I hope you don't mind, everyone, if we're just a few minutes late. Before we close the session, I want to get your view, because I think you're a very wise man, on what's happened in 2020. We talked a little bit about the environmental message, but just generally, how do you think we should transform out of this year into next year?
Yeah, thank you asking that. I've been, really reflecting on every day and meditating on that, and also opportunity has been to share with the many patients and group that we've been working on it. I can also understand why the pandemic is still kind of hanging around and virus is mutating in some ways. I think we all need to connect with the more spiritual message that brings this pandemic. And what I mean is that, obviously there's a lot of, message, there's a pandemic, there's a physical aspect, but there's much more conscious aspect. We as a generation, whether you're a young child or whether somebody's in a other half of the life, we all facing that collectively. And we will also, if we have born like 50 years ago, we might not face that we are going through collectively. So there's something deep telling us cosmically why this here. I think it is in some ways going back to that, I've been worrying for the past 20 years, even my contribution to the planet not being sometimes positive, right? And so I just feel like the way we continue the life, it's more about the consuming everything, not giving a lot of time to ourselves, and also much more spiritual aspect of that, always to next things and next things and next thing, whether it's a materialistic things or anything else. So sometimes I've always liked the simplicity and making our life simple, and also taking care of your community and helping your friends, one loved one, which has been highlighted. So for me, is the deep spiritual message coming down is cosmically, is that there's some sort of restoring and reset. And I'm if you look back when the pandemic started, and now we've all been here, there was a huge insecurity at the beginning, but we have come through that. There's sometimes we go through this, but there's some self lesson to be learned to everyone. And maybe 3 things I will invite everyone to write down 3 things that you realize that you didn't perhaps realize that, and 3 things that you want to take and emerge from this pandemic, and how we can live collectively with more kindness to the where we live, planet and the community. And that's what I get.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you. I applaud you with your vision, and I endorse that absolutely. I think kindness is the big thing. Kindness to each other, kindness to the planet, kindness to ourselves, and let's make that our message for 2021. Okay, if you can close us out with a lovely meditation, I would be very grateful.
Yeah, thank you, Stella. Yeah, so we'll do a few minutes, some little bit breath work. Breath is obviously a very important thing, and it's a nice way to set for the weekend. So whether you are sitting or anywhere you are there, just come to your center place, and lying down is good, sitting is good, and cross leg easy pose is good, whichever the position that you feel most comfortable. Just do a little quick scan of our body. Detach from our rational brain. Feel your toes. Just quickly gentle grip. And the heel. Just completely relax into it. Feel any tension in your legs, any stresses. Just deeply relax into it. Slowly go upwards. Feel any tension in your thigh muscles. Just ease into it. The Mother Earth is supporting your energy, being safely held. Feel any tension in your pelvic area, especially inner pelvic, groin area. We hold our tension, just ease up, relax into it. Now slowly move upwards on your lumbar spine and the muscles side. Just completely relax. Feel the diaphragm opening and expanding very gently, at ease, no effort. Feel the expansion of your rib cage, sternum. We hold our attention in our heart. Let the breath to come naturally. Feel some kindness, compassion to ourselves. Feel any tension in your upper back, shoulders, neck. Smile a bit and relax into it. Feel the connection to your third eye. Your crown, top of the head, is connected with the sky, heaven. Your base, your sacrum is connected with the earth. Feel your physical frame. Really relax into it. Let breath to come in naturally, deeply into your whole body now. Not just lungs. See the breath spreading into your whole frame of your body. And out. Feel the expansion. Breath getting deeper. Any thought comes to just acknowledge and stay with the breath. We stay a few minutes quiet, just really connected to yourself. As you drop in, feel the compassion, the love, kindness, first to ourselves, most importantly. Then to this room, everyone that we sit, we come together deeply into this session. So feel the love and compassion spreading to everyone in this space that we are together today. As you do that, we collectively send this love, healing energies, kindness to our friends, especially this time, loved one, the communities, and most importantly, our planet, that we all emerge from it positive way with the kindness, compassionate. Let's stay with that. As you do that, now slowly come back to your center. Come back to your natural breath. As when you're ready, just relax, shake your legs, shake your hands. I want to say it's been a really fantastic and really enjoy, and I also deep gratitude to you, Stella, asking me to sit in this session, and also gratitude to everyone that's joined with us, and send a lot of kindness, compassion to everyone, and a happy Christmas. Yeah, enjoy it next few days.
Thank
Satnam.
you, Sam, Satnam. Thank you. Thank you so much for that wonderful closing meditation. We can all float into our day.